What's up, boys and girls? Are you excited for this chapter? Because let me tell you something. This guy right here is absolutely, positively, 100%ly exhausted. I'm back to work full time finally, so that's a good thing, but as a result, my energy levels aren't exactly up to snuff for all the hard labor. However, I was smart because this chapter, I read it at lunchtime and I said to myself, okay, I know what to do because this is going to take some high energy levels to review, and I don't want to wait to the end of the week and stuff like that to review such a big chapter, right? Because this chapter, we get the roster of everyone participating in the Battle Royale for Kengan Omega Chapter 327. With the exception of, like, the dozen hooded, a new challenger approaches, Super Smash Bros. Style, right? Outside of that, we do get the roster, which is the big takeaway. It's basically the only thing that actually happens in this chapter, and there is a little bit of what I like to think of as fourth wall breaking that goes on. But yeah, so I was smart about this. I took a nap after work. I ate an early supper, took a nap so I could come back out here this evening and make sure to get this chapter out on time because there's some stuff to talk about. And what I want you guys to leave in the comments is, out of everyone we got, which I think is like 64 fighters, something like that. It's over 60 fighters. If this is the roster, and we can assume that most of the hooded figures are not going to be like, Joji is a worm the whole time? Assuming that kind of stuff. Which fighter is not on the roster that you wanted on the roster? If you could pick one. Now, for me, it's a toss-up between a couple of fighters. And we'll get to a specific fighter that I think will still definitely appear, but is not going to be officially part of the Battle Royale. Sort of like the Guardians messing up the cat tourney, sort of like that idea, right? Outside of that one character, and we'll get to them, there's a few characters that I'm a little like, okay, this is a big Battle Royale, this is a huge roster, and we got more people than I thought. I really expected to be disappointed, and I understand that we can't showcase absolutely everybody, but if you guys can pick one fighter, let me know in the comment section down below, which fighter did you want to see on this roster that's 99.9, let's assume that the hooded figures are not them, 99% sure they're not here, right? Okay, so going on to the chapter, we'll review it really quick, but because the fourth wall break begins at the very beginning. This chapter is the roster, and that's it. Because they waste time going over the rules, and they take pages to do this with characters. The second page, Seki goes to Oma and Rihito and says, guys, isn't this kind of weird? Why would they go over the rules again when they have drilled them even, into our heads already? Like, what is the purpose of doing this? And I'm like, to use up pages, because this week's chapter is just, here's everybody in the roster, fight begins next week. That is the long and short of it. And I think there was a little bit of self-awareness going on here, because we waste a page talking about the fact that we're going over the rules again, right? And not spending a page, some dialogue bubbles, some panels. No. We take, that's page 1, the beginning page, page 2, to go over it again, page 3 to talk about how it's weird that we're going over this again. Page 4 technically talks about, hey, we've got basically Apple Watches, and they're, that's how we have 500 flying drones, we have cameras set up everywhere, so nobody's going to miss any of the action once we start this fight. Here's your Apple Watches. Basically, if they get destroyed in any way, we're going to count that as disqualified, so you sort of have to protect this thing. Now, that would be worrisome if I thought that any relevant character is going to lose based on the fact that, oh, I wasn't actually going to defeat you in a head-on fight. I knew I couldn't. I attacked your wristwatch to disqualify you the entire time. It was my grand scheme, my grand plan, if it were. And I'm sitting there like, no, I do not want Gao Lang taken out by a goddamn ring out again, okay? He won that fight, and I'm still fucking salty about it, okay? So, fact of the matter is, as long as the main crew of highly loved characters Do not go out that way. You want to take out some of the new generation guys, Koga and Ryuki's generation. You want to take out some of them by, them not protecting the Apple Watches and being conscious of that. You go right ahead. But Kuroki Gensai is not losing because his Apple Watch got busted on a rock. I'm just saying. You pull that stunt, I'm dropping the bloody series. So, anyways, I'm not that worried about it, but it makes sense. This is how they're going to follow everyone, detect them, etc., and know who's actually supposed to be here, right? They go over the final area and stuff. Page 5 goes over it again. And we already knew about you can't destroy this, the coin, the main thing. That's the weird part of the Battle Royale. You can't intentionally remove the coin. You can't damage the coin. You can't do this. Even Koga, once again, fourth wall breaking, brings up, this is a complete review of last time. We have added basically no new information, and we are 6 pages into this week's chapter. Then we say there's an additional rule, and then we need the obligatory shock. So it's not until page 7 that, at minimum, that we finally have something new, and it's called life points, because we, as a collective, know that it's time to duel. And we have life points now in this Battle Royale. So, Shen even says, all right, life points, what are we talking about here? What are we doing? And he says, okay, well, and it's funny, actually, the Connectors group, like the Worms group, is actually off getting the same information from the Purgatory girl, Alyssa, or whatever. They're getting the information from her on a separate stand that's like, a few, I don't know, like looks like 25, 50 yards away, something like that. They're all just off to the side sort of idea, getting the same information, like, then nobody's going to co-mingle sort of idea. And they talk about the fact that everybody starts with 1 life point, and you will be disqualified if your life points reach 0, hence the breaking of the Apple Watch. If you defeat someone, however, this is how it's going to turn into Battle Royale and not just play chicken or play hot potato, whatever reference you want to use for the coin, is the fact that you can gain points. As you defeat someone, you gain their points. One thing that I don't believe is brought up here is that, okay, wait a minute. If somebody already has 3 points and I beat them, do I get all 3 points, or do I just get the 1 point for defeating one fighter? The way I'm taking it right here, the way it's been explained, is no. The amount of quote-unquote kills that you get is based on the number that you actually defeat. So you can't, wait until somebody's, beating 12 people and waiting in the bush and, boom, yay, 13 points for me. You can't do that, from what I understand. It's only how many you actually defeated. But I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I misread or missed that part of the chapter. So, they come up with this, they talk about it, and the fact is, the Kengan rules still are purgatory rules. The whole no killing thing, hate it. Because it's like, somebody can die, but then they get disqualified. I don't like that aspect, because some people, Mutaba, Rei, technically Shen, these guys can't completely go all out, and I'm just a little like, meh, really? Because this is going to harm some guys' fighting styles, 100%. They're not going to be able to fight at full capacity, that's for sure. So anyways, there is that. They talk about the fact that this is another way that they can potentially win. They don't actually have to defeat Shen to win the Battle Royale. So there is that. It still doesn't fully save the fact it's going to defeat the Worm, but it's not necessarily going to satisfy Shen if he doesn't have a balls to the wall fight. So I'm not sure about that one. Anyways, so we continue on. We get the Worm's reaction. We see. There's Fu, there's Nicholas, there's Yan, and of course Gilbert standing there pretending to be, doing his best Edward impression, But I expect some really good fight in Gilbert. I do expect, some of that to be very entertaining, very good stuff. So, then the rest of the chapter goes on to basically say, yeah, this is our new win condition. This adds more potential for us. This is a good thing, because a lot of us, of course, are not just here to test our own metal. We're here to make sure that the Worm doesn't have their way, and specifically the Connector with his whole, I want to take over Oma and Ryuki's brains. So, and Haro is revealed to be Haro here, which I really do like. Haro's like, yeah, I'm Haro, and Seki and Okubo are like, what the hell, that's Haro? And I do like that was only done for a chapter. Done for 1 week to quote-unquote fool us. You know what I mean? because here he could have gone the route. They could have went with the whole, yes, but my meditation, must be stoic and definitely copy Kuroki Gensai level of meditation and aura farming here because, I not need outside feelings and to break my concentration, and it won't be revealed, even though I am clearly Haro. I can't speak to my master Seki Bayashi, and I can't talk to my friend Okubo, and I can't even mention that I'm Haro for a dozen chapters into this battle. No. We're not pulling that stunt. We're just going, no, it's Haro, and you guys are just stupid. To be fair, they did not know he went back to the Himalayas and like, no. I might not have applied myself in the last 7 years since the end of Cat. But let me tell you, I did it this time. Let's go. Definitely giving that final arc vibes. Another big thing is that Okoye shows up aura farming as well with a full page. Why Okoye gets a full page out of all the heavy hitters here, I have no idea. Why Oma specifically is like, oh, I should have known that you would be here. And I'm thinking the moment I heard him say that, because, sometimes I read the dialogue before like paying as much attention to the panel. So for a split second, I was like, Setsuna. Gotta be Setsuna. I should have known you'd be here. Setsuna would make sense. His relationship with Oma. Setsuna, of course, is going to be here to probably try to protect Oma and Ryuki in some, misguided, I guess, vendetta sort of way. I could see Setsuna feeling that way, and the way we left things at the hospital, this would make sense for him. But he's actually not on the roster at all, and we'll get to that. But Okoye here gets a full page, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, Okoye, like, for me personally, a lot of people didn't like the restaurant chapters. But I thought that just showcased how good and how cool executing justice truly is. That was a baller panel. That was a baller page when he just, boom, restaurant doors open. Here's a grenade. Have fun. That was a baller move, and Okoye deserves the respect for it. I'm just saying. I like the restaurant chapters, and Okoye's here back seemingly in full form to execute some more justice. And I'm here for it. So that's the end of the chapter proper, or properly, I should say. Now, we do get the full roster here, and we're going to go through them, okay? Because that's the main thing we're all here for to talk about, right? We're going through the main roster. And as I already asked, what character, what fighter are you disappointed that is not here? Assuming that the hooded figures are not Kurushi, Joji, that dude that everyone says is like stronger than Kuroki from Fist of the Seeker. That guy that we had that one panel where he passed him in the hallway when Omen was doing all his duels. Assuming that the hooded guys are more on the quote-unquote evil side, like maybe one of them's Tiger Nico sort of idea, or maybe one of them's the third Nico. Maybe things like that. Outside of that, who are you sort of upset that you didn't see? Because I'm actually surprised that most characters that I wanted to be here are here. Talking about that, the one we already talked about, Setsuna. I think Setsuna's definitely on the island, had no intention of participating, but will definitely be sort of like a third of the way, maybe 2/3 of the way through the battle royale. He's going to show up. He's going to sort of crash the party, as it were. Guardians in the Cat. Same idea. Setsuna's going to be involved in that regard. So, Setsuna, I'm not fully counting, because I definitely think Setsuna's showing up. He just was never going to be in the roster properly anyways. My disappointment is quite literally not seeing the Fist of the Seeker characters. No Joji, no Kurushi, and that dude that I really wanted to see that dude go toe-to-toe with Kuroki Gensai. So everyone told me, nah, Fist of the Seeker stronger than Kuroki Gensai. I'm like, I'm not reading Fist of the Seeker, so I don't know, but I'm taking your word for it. So I wanted to see that guy go up and prove to me that that's the case, right? So no Kurushi and no Joji for me are the characters I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick, take your pick. If I have one pick, it's probably Kurushi himself, only because I like his character. Joji's really cool, but of course the Joji Shen dynamic and stuff would keep Joji out of it. Joji, I don't think ever had any intention of involving himself in the battle against Shen in any capacity. So he was pretty guaranteed to not, and he's not legally allowed, as we know. He's not allowed to participate, or he's got to be disowned by the karate school and stuff like that, so similar to Waka. So we knew he was like very unlikely to participate anyway, so I'm going to go out on a limb and give it to Kurushi as the one who has no real affiliation, could join this if he wanted to, and apparently chose not to. That's my most disappointing thing. This is, of course, assuming that Setsuna does crash the party and show up in some capacity, because we knew that these guys would show up. Our main characters. We have Oma, we have Koga, we have Ryuki. Then, of course, other major characters like Agito, Ryan, the two kings of Purgatory. You know, we knew that Gao Lang, Waka, these guys were all going to show up, okay? And we already knew from previous chapters, Tarashi was not going to participate. Lou was definitely going to participate, so was Jean-Luc. You know, so these characters made a lot of sense to me. Seki being there, alright, you know, we knew Hara was going to be there. Like, most of these guys on the first page, we knew that they were going to show up. We knew they were going to be there. I am excited, however, that Jose is here. I like that Jose is here. I do like that. I didn't expect that, and I'm happy to see him here, because I was thinking the people that are going to be forgotten are not going to be the obvious S-tier fighters. It's going to be the people who are B to A tier, middle of the pack, maybe had one or two fights, been in the background mostly, and they've been forgotten about. And surprisingly, and one of my favorite characters introduced in Omega who doesn't get enough screen time is Jose. So I'm excited to see, hopefully we do get to see a few pages of a major fight with him, where he gets to go balls to the wall, toe to toe and stuff like that. I'd like to see that. So, the other characters on the list, of course, so we already went through the Kings of Purgatory. Cosmo's obviously here. Gao Lang, Seki, etc. The rest of this panel, Julius is here, is like the Leonardo, the Kim, the Nam, all the guys that are part of the generation of Koga and Ryuki, the new, I forget what they call themselves, the new generation or whatever, isn't it? Like supernovas, like the same as One Piece, the supernovas. Most of the supernovas are here, which is kind of surprising. Chiba is here, though Gozo is not. I do notice that Gozo is not here, neither is Karo. Now, I understand why Karo's not here, but it would have been really cool to see the badass fisherman, you know, the whale hunter himself, go all out again, because Salpang won that sort of by the skin of his teeth sort of idea, so I wanted to see more of him, because he was a one and done, unfortunately, and his one loss to Salpang puts people rank him a lot lower than he actually deserves, and he could beat a lot of fighters, you know, so he would have been interesting to have here. Now, the second page of the roster, told you guys this is going to be long, because we're going to go through it. Once again, we have characters from Omega that have been fighting like Koga and stuff like that. Then, like this Funyama guy, wasn't he the first guy after the time skip to fight sort of idea? He was some type of weird kickboxing stuff. Anyways, wrestling, kick wrestling, something like that. But Mutaba, the man who makes us all feel inferior in the bedroom. Even porn stars can't compete with Mutaba. Mutaba is actually here. I find this surprising, incredibly shocking, because part of the reason he wasn't joining a lot of the tournaments, to his own words, were without, you know, not being allowed to kill and stuff, I'm way too limited, and these heavy hitters are going to be better fighters. If I'm not allowed to kill, this is going to be very difficult for me, and I'm at a heavy disadvantage, so I'm not going to do it. Now, that being said, the style of this, the guerrilla warfare tactics involved, maybe that's sort of counterbalancing that handicap of not being allowed to take a life enough that Mutaba's like, all right, yeah, let's do this, let's go. So, like that. This dude, I remember him. Hong. He, I'm surprised he can still use his legs. Yeah, so amazing recovery abilities in the Kengan verse, absolutely. But he's here. Wakatsuki is, of course, here. Sawada was nice to see that he's back, because he got done dirty in the cat tournament, so it'd be nice to see him actually strut a little bit. I don't think he's going to go far, but it is what it is. Seeing Mikazuchi here, seeing Ri here, I was like, all right. Once again, similar argument to the Mutaba thing, but a very top tier fighter. Looking forward to him, like, probably sweeping some worms and stuff like that. He might just be here literally to go beat the crap out of a bunch of the worm affiliate people, and then be like, all right, well, I cleaned up house so that Oma and everyone else can have an easier time. I would completely buy that. That's why Mikazuchi's here, and he's like, well, I can beat them up, then like kill them and get disqualified. I don't care if I get disqualified. I'll murder like 6 of them. That's entirely possible. That's his plan. No idea. Now, of course, because he said that he still keeps to his promise, even though the Rashian style is based on, of course, assassination, he said he's still keeping his promise to his, his beloved, even though they're not together anymore, so that's probably unlikely. Still, I was worried he might not make the cut for whatever reason, for holding to his principles or something, but he's here. Awesome. Along with Masaki. Masaki's here. A lot of people like him. I don't care one way or another, but he's here. Rihito's, of course, here. This dude, I remember, he's an Omega guy. He's here. All right. Another guy to basically get defeated, like, easily. Justin's here. The Beard himself, of course. We knew he was showing up, but the Beard is listed here. Just amazing. Just middle of the pack. Not on the first page, not in the top corner. Just middle, second page, like we would just glaze over the fact that the Beard is here. And he's ready to throw down. Justin, Sao Pang, Akoya, Toa, Okubo, they were all, other than Justin, I was like, all right, he's here too. But these guys were all definitely going to show up. Not surprised that Kanade is here. Rio is a little surprising, but of course he's always tries to be involved in stuff. He was involved with the Berserker Bowls and stuff like that. So, yeah, okay, fair enough. Carlos and Hatsumi. I was like with Ri, I was worried that Hatsumi might be like, nah, these youngsters can have that fun, man. I am tapped. I'm just growing older, and I'm, even though we saw him fight against Kanade, and, his pre-initiative and stuff like that, like, he's improved, we know, but he might have thought of it as too much of a hassle. It would be within Hatsumi's character to not participate in this. To be like, no, that sounds like way too much hard work. I'm a lazy son of a bitch. So I was worried, but okay, Hatsumi's here. And Carlos, now that he's bulked up a little bit more since his Gao Lang fight, he's actually even more peaked than he was when he fought Gao Lang in the Purgatory match. So looking forward to him because he's one of my favorite Purgatory fighters. Just like with Jose, Carlos is one of my favorite new characters introduced since Ashura. So that's awesome. Then we get the Bee Stinger guy, Koga's first rival, who's probably still like top of D, a C tier fighter at best, but maybe he's improved a little bit. Who knows? Adam being here, not surprised. Inaba, Falcon, Ren, all those guys, we already knew that Kyozan was here, so not surprised at any of these. What is surprising is that Retsudo is actually participating in the fight this time. We're going to get to see him, because unfortunately with that cool team up in the inside, we didn't get to fully see him go all out in a fight where he struggled, or to really gauge him. If you wanted to put him at the bottom of S tier, people would probably laugh at you like, no, Retsudo's not S tier. But I don't have feats or statements that state he isn't. If you put him in the middle of A tier, I could see people arguing that, but we don't have features. Like, that's just the problem with ranking Retsudo. He's clearly, top of B minimum, but where do you put him as far as a fighter goes, and above who? We don't have enough knowledge about the guy, so we knew he was powerful, and we know he knows his own. We know from his character that he has his own ambitions past, just the legacy of his father. But the fact that he entered this properly, I'm really excited for that. I don't know about you guys. I'm excited to see, because I think that everybody here is going to... The coin thing is just more of a gimmick. I think that everybody here who's going to lose, they are going to lose. Like, they're going to have a major fight when they lose. When they get taken out, it's not going to be because, they got... Maybe they get ganged up on. Maybe... We don't know what the tactics are going to be. But I think guys like this are going to be able to excel in tournaments like this. we got the 5th Fang of Metsudo with Agito, but both the current 8th Fang, I expected Misasa. Surprised that Takayama is also here. So 3 Fangs of Metsudo is here. No Yumigahara. However, that could be one of the hooded figures. It would not surprise me if the worm, after the whole Koga thing, if the worm went to him and said, hey, we'll pay you or whatever, and we're going to train you up a little bit or something like that. Wouldn't surprise me if he's here under the worm's affiliates just to get revenge. Would not surprise me if Yumigahara was one of the hooded figures. But the fact is we got 3 Fangs. I wanted Omari to participate, but I'm also not surprised. That's why I picked Karushi for my character that I wanted to be here, because when we got that training with Waka against Omari, I basically knew it. I said, right there, that tells me that he's not going to participate in the fight itself. And somebody definitely needs to stay by Metsudo's side. Yeah, it is a little disappointing for me, but I expected it. So the fact that we have 3 Fangs here, potentially a 4th, fake Fang, that's fine too. So those are nice additions. We go to the worm section. We get Shen, of course. We have Yan, and we have Fu. And Nicholas. Then we have Chopstick, Johnny, and Dodo. Okay. Dodo is Yumigahara, because he's a Dodo. He's a fake Fang. He's a loser. Okay? So, who are all these dudes? Who are these guys? Like Chopstick, Johnny, and Dodo, I'm assuming that those are just nicknames or aliases of some description. Do we know any of these characters is the big question. Okay? Do we know any of these guys? Because there's, is there 11 of them? There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 if we count Dodo and Chopstick Johnny. Now, I don't know exactly, because of the whole fake Nico and Lu Han thing, I doubt that Lu Han or Nico are here in this capacity. I'm going to assume that Nico and Lu Han are going to crash the party, similar to how I assume Setsuna is going to crash the party. This is why they're not included in the list of, oh, I wanted them to be in the Battle Royale. They're going to show up. They're just not here in the actual registry. So that begs the question, and Gilbert's here too. At the very end, Gilbert's here. Yeah. We can, Gilbert's here. Out of these people, are any of them, and if so, how many of them are characters that we know? Is Yan's brother here? Is Zaiji here? Maybe. And actually, that would fit Dodo. Calling, my weaker brother Dodo. Alright, why do we get 2 names for them? We don't know these characters. Dodo and Chopstick Johnny. We've never heard these names, as far as I'm aware, in any of the Kengan-verse series. So why specifically give them names, these hooded figures, and list another 9 as just numbers? Is the 3rd Nico among them? I'm going to assume that a couple of them are consectors. But really, I don't know if any of them, outside of maybe Zaiji and stuff, are actually characters that we are aware of. What do you guys think? I think, alright, there's 2 possibilities, but I really do think that most of them are going to be new characters. I really doubt with the hooded thing we might be bringing people back from the dead. Ooh, but there's not enough. There's so many characters already listed, I can't think of many that are affiliated that either aren't RIP or would ever work with the worm in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah. If we know any of these characters, I'm going with 2 out of 11. We know 2 out of the 11 people, 3 at best. That's what I'm going with. That's my assumption. That's my guess. What is your guys'? Now, I know this is a super long review. Super long. But we had to go through the roster. So, yeah, because it's finally time to start. Game on, Connector says Metsudo. And that's the end of the chapter. So, that's covering the whole roster. Who is here? Because we know that basically all of Gilbert's guys are long gone. There doesn't seem to be any other Cure clan members other than Ryan joined. So nobody else decided to join this rumble. None of them would work with the worm anyways. who's left? Who are these hooded figures and how many do we actually know? As I said, I'm going to go with we know 2 to 3 at best, and the other ones are going to be new characters. Characters we do not know. You know, people have said already in the comments, like, where's Medicine Man, where's Hassad, and stuff like that. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect every fighter that we ever saw to be in this thing. But we got a pretty close second with this list. I'm just saying. I can't think of very many other people. As I said, my choice is for either Karo, our whale hunting extraordinaire, or Kurushi, because I assume the Luhans, the Tiger Nikos, and the Setsunas are all going to show up in some capacity anyways. So, yeah. Okay, see? This is why... See, I knew this would be a long review. I knew this would be a long review, and this is why I said I needed that nap after work. I needed that nap so I had the energy to go through this whole thing with you guys. So, that is the end of the chapter. 327. And I don't know about you guys, but I am looking forward to this. I am looking so forward to this, in fact, that I really think that everybody who has been doubting, and I understand why. I understand the fears and the doubts that everybody has, being a fan of this series, or was a fan and has lost faith in it, and etc., etc. I don't think this is going to disappoint. Because I assume this is the final arc with, of course, like another sort of mini arc to wrap up everything at the end. But I assume this is the last major arc of Kengan ever. And I don't think Sandra's going to disappoint. I think tournaments are where he shines. And I think that this is essentially a tournament arc that he can sink his teeth into, and he can do this. I really do have faith. I think he can do this. So I'm looking so forward to it. I'm really stoked. What do you guys think? Let me know. Comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I knew this would be a long one. I'm looking at that runtime right now. I knew this would be a long one, but it was worth it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a worthwhile review. So, yeah, that's me tooting my own horn, I guess. I don't know. I'm running out of things to say at this point. Okay, we're done. Have a good one, everyone. And we'll see you back here next Wednesday. I don't think there's a break or anything. So, 328. It's probably actually going to begin because the chapter titles have been "It Starts," "The Fight Begins," "The Dawn of the First Day." Like, okay. But where's the fighting? Let's start. You know, don't keep telling me the fight's starting in this chapter when it's not. So, anyways. That's it from me. Have a good one, everyone. See you back here next Wednesday. Sayonara.